This old mountain bike is getting a full teardown. But here's the catch. I'm letting AI tell me how to do it. Will it work? Let's find out. Okay, time to jump into my computer. Here's my prompt. Assume I know nothing about bicycle mechanics, but I have access to all of the necessary tools. Can you please give me the high-level steps for disassembling a 90s mountain bike? I only need the high-level steps for now. I'll come back later and ask for detailed instructions for each step.
Remove wheels. Start by taking off the front and rear wheels. This usually involves quick release levers or axle nuts. Remove drivetrain components. Take off the chain. Remove the rear cassette. The set of gears on the rear wheel. Remove the crankset.
It looks like AI has given me a reasonable outline on what I need to do. Let's ask AI about the first step, removing the wheels. Here's my prompt. How do I remove the wheels from my 90s mountain bike? Please give me step-by-step instructions. It looks like AI has given me instructions for both quick release levers and bolt-on axles. I have the bolt-on axles, so let's look at these instructions.
2. Removing wheels with bolt-on axles. Tools needed. Wrench. Usually a 15mm open-end wrench. Procedure. Shift gears. Rear wheel. As with quick release. Shift the rear derailleur to the smallest cog on the rear cassette. Loosen the axle nuts. Use the wrench to loosen the nuts on both sides of the wheel axle. Turn the wrench counterclockwise to loosen them. You will need to loosen them quite a bit, several turns, before you can remove the wheel. Remove the wheel. Front wheel. Hold the frame. Lift the front of the bike, and slide the wheel straight down and out of the fork. Rear wheel. Hold the frame. Pull the rear derailleur back and down to create slack in the chain, and slide the wheel out of the frame dropouts.
Here we go. I've confirmed that I have the bolt-on axles here, and I've already shifted into the smallest cog in the rear. I couldn't find my 15mm open-ended wrench, so I'm using my 15mm socket and a ratchet wrench. I've unscrewed the bolts and the wheel almost falls out of the bike. Looks like AI forgot about disconnecting the brakes before removing the wheels. Thus far, I'll give AI 9 out of 10. I was impressed it told me to shift into the smallest cog before starting to remove the back wheel. That went well enough. The next step is to take off the chain. Let's jump into my computer and ask AI how to do this. Here's my prompt. Can you please give me step-by-step instructions on how to take off a bicycle chain? I've already removed the rear wheel.
3. Removing a chain with the standard link. Tools needed. Chain tool. Procedure. Position the chain. Place the section of the chain you want to separate into the chain tool. Make sure the pin of the chain tool is centered on the pin in the chain you want to push out. It's best to push a pin out of a link on the lower part of the chain. Push out the pin. Turn the handle of the chain tool to push the pin out of the chain link. You will want to push the pin almost all the way out, but not completely. It's important that the pin stays connected to the outer plate of the chain, so the chain doesn't fall apart completely. Separate the chain. Once the pin is mostly out, you should be able to bend the chain at that link and separate it.
Those steps were almost perfect. I'll give AI 10 out of 10 for its guidance there. Let's move on to the next steps. AI suggests removing the rear cassette. I'll pass as I'll be reusing this free wheel and there's no need to remove that. Looking at our outline, removing the crankset is next. So, our next prompt is, can you please give me step-by-step instructions on how to remove the crankset, the pedals, and front gears?
Tools you will need. Crank puller. This is essential. It's a specialized tool that removes crank arms. Wrench or socket wrench. Usually 14mm or 15mm. For removing the crank bolts. Allen wrench. Size will vary. Often 8mm. If your crank bolts are this tight. Remove the crank bolts. Identify the bolts holding the crank arms to the bottom bracket spindle. These are usually found on the inside of the crank arm, near the bottom bracket. Use the appropriate tool, socket wrench or Allen wrench, to loosen and remove the bolts. Turn the wrench counterclockwise to loosen. Remove both crank bolts completely. After removing the bolts, reinstall them loosely 1 or 2 turns. This protects the threads when you use the crank puller. Attach the crank puller, both sides. Thread the crank puller body. Thread the larger part of the crank puller into the threaded hole in the crank arm. Make sure it's threaded in as far as it will go. It's important to get this part right. If this is not fully threaded, you can strip the threads. Tighten the puller. Tighten the center bolt of the crank puller with the wrench. As you tighten, the puller will push against the bottom bracket spindle and force the crank arm off. You will usually feel a pop, and then the crank arm will come loose. Remove the crank puller from the crank arm. Remove the crank arm. Repeat this process for the other crank arm. Remove the crank arms. Once both crank arms are detached, you can slide them off the bottom bracket spindle.
That went okay, with a few hiccups along the way. Does anyone ever really need to put the crank arm bolts back in to protect the crank puller? And the crank arms already fell off during the removal. Why tell us to do that again? I'll give AI 7 out of 10 for this one. It looks like removing the derailleurs, front and rear, are next. Here's my prompt. Please give me detailed step-by-step instructions to remove the derailleur, front and rear. Looks like AI gave us some detailed instructions starting with the rear derailleur. Let's give this a try.
Cut the derailleur cable. Use cable cutters to cut the derailleur cable as close as possible to the point where it clamps onto the derailleur. This prevents fraying and makes removal easier. Unclamp the derailleur cable. Use an Allen wrench, or sometimes a screwdriver, to loosen the bolt that clamps the cable to the derailleur. Remove the cable from the derailleur. Remove the derailleur. Locate the bolt that attaches the rear derailleur to the frame's derailleur hanger. Use an Allen wrench to loosen and remove this bolt. Turn the wrench counterclockwise to loosen. Carefully remove the derailleur from the frame. It might be a little awkward due to the V-link. Removing the front derailleur, shift to the smallest chainring. Shift the front derailleur to the smallest chainring. This will also reduce cable tension. Cut the derailleur cable. Use cable cutters to cut the derailleur cable as close as possible to the point where it clamps onto the derailleur. Unclamp the derailleur cable. Use an Allen wrench, or screwdriver, to loosen the bolt that clamps the cable to the derailleur. Remove the cable. Remove the derailleur. The front derailleur is attached to the frame with a clamp or a bolt. Clamp on derailleurs. Loosen the bolt on the derailleur clamp using an Allen wrench. Then, slide the derailleur off the frame. Direct mount derailleurs. There will be 1 or 2 bolts attaching the derailleur to the frame. Use an Allen wrench to remove these bolts.
Removing the derailleurs went smoothly. The only issue I had was my derailleurs were attached via 9mm nuts and bolts. I'll give AI 9 out of 10 for this one. Looking at the outline, we should now be removing the handlebars and controls. The first step is disconnect the brake and shifter cables from the levers. Here's my prompt. Please give me detailed step-by-step instructions on how to disconnect the brake and shifter cables from the levers. AI has given us our instructions for removing the cables. Let's see how this goes.
Brake cables. Identify the brake cable routing. Look at how the cable runs from the lever to the brake caliper. You will see where it's clamped at the lever. Loosen the cable clamp bolt. Most brake levers have a small bolt, often an Allen bolt, that clamps the brake cable. Use the appropriate Allen wrench to loosen this bolt. Turn it counterclockwise. Loosen the bolt enough to allow the cable to slip out, but don't remove the bolt completely unless necessary.
Okay, it looks like AI has led us astray. I believe that it mixed up where it thought the brake cables were connected by a bolt. They are connected to the caliper, not the brake lever. Reading ahead, it looks like AI thinks the shifter cables are connected at the levers and not the derailleurs. For these 2 steps, I give AI 3 out of 10. If I didn't know better, I may have really messed things up and tried to unscrew the wrong parts from the brake levers or shifters. With that fiasco out of the way, let's move on to the next step. Removing the brake levers and shifters from the handlebars. Here's my prompt. Please give me detailed step-by-step instructions on how to remove the brake levers and shifters from the handlebars. I've already removed the cables. AI has given us the instructions on how to remove the shifters and brake levers. Let's give this a try.
Handlebar grips. In most cases, you will need to remove the handlebar grips before you can slide off the brake and shifter levers. Removing brake levers. Locate the clamp bolt. S. Look at the brake lever where it attaches to the handlebar. You will see a clamp that wraps around the bar, held together by 1 or 2 Allen bolts. Loosen the clamp bolt. S. Use the appropriate Allen wrench to loosen the bolt. S. Turn the wrench counterclockwise to loosen. Once the clamp is sufficiently loose, you should be able to slide the brake lever off the end of the handlebar. You might need to open the brake lever clamp a bit wider to clear the handlebar.
And now, the shifters.
The procedure for removing shifter levers is very similar to that for brake levers. Locate the clamp bolt. S. Find the clamp where the shifter attaches to the handlebar. It will have 1 or 2 Allen bolts. Loosen the clamp bolt. S. Use the correct Allen wrench to loosen the bolt. S. Turn counterclockwise to loosen. If there are 2 bolts, loosen them alternately. Remove the shifter lever. Slide the shifter off the end of the handlebar. You may need to open the clamp slightly.
That went well. The only exception was my shifters and brake levers were held on by Phillips head screws. I'll give AI 10 out of 10 on this one. Looks like removing the handlebars from the stem is next. I'll pass on this and remove the stem from the steerer tube with the handlebars attached. Here's my prompt. Can you please give me step-by-step instructions on how to remove the stem from the steerer tube?
Procedure. Loosen the stem clamp bolts. Locate the bolts on the stem that clamp it to the steerer tube. These are usually on the side of the stem. Use the appropriate Allen wrench to loosen these bolts. Turn the wrench counterclockwise to loosen. Important. Loosen all the bolts a little at a time, alternating between them. This ensures even pressure and prevents binding. Don't remove any one bolt completely until all are loosened.
It looks like AI only gave me the steps for removing a threadless stem. In the important notes section, it tells me about both threaded and threadless stems. Let's go back and ask for instructions on a threaded stem.
Loosen the stem clamp bolt. Locate the bolt on the top of the stem. This bolt tightens the wedge inside the steerer tube. Use the appropriate Allen wrench to loosen this bolt. Turn counterclockwise. Loosen this bolt several turns, but do not remove it completely. Sometimes, the wedge inside the steerer tube can get stuck. If the stem doesn't loosen after loosening the bolt, use a hammer and a punch to gently tap the bolt head. This can help dislodge the wedge. Once the wedge is loose, remove the top bolt completely. With the bolt removed, you should now be able to pull the stem up and out of the steerer tube. You might need to twist the stem slightly as you pull to help it come out.
With the exception of the wedge remaining inside the steerer tube, the steps were great. I personally wouldn't remove the bolt completely. Looking at our outline, the next step is to remove the brakes. Here's my prompt. Please give me detailed instructions for removing the brake calipers or cantilever brakes from the frame. I've already removed the cables.
Locate the mounting bolts. Cantilever brakes have posts on the frame or fork, and the brake arms pivot on these posts. The bolts you need to address are those that hold the brake arms to these posts. Remove the bolts nuts. Use the appropriate Allen wrench or wrench to loosen the bolts or nuts that secure the brake arms to the posts. Turn counterclockwise to loosen. You might need to hold one side of the bolt nut with one tool while turning the other side with another. Remove the cantilever brake arms. Once the bolts or nuts are removed, the brake arms should detach from the posts. Again, pay attention to any washers or spacers.
That went well. I'll give AI 10 out of 10 for this one. Looks like we're getting close. Only 2 more things to remove from the frame. The next item is a fork. Here's my prompt. Please give me step-by-step instructions on how to remove the fork from the head tube of the frame.
Threaded headset. Loosen the top nut on the headset. This usually requires a large wrench. Remove the top nut, upper race, and any washers. The fork should now be free to slide out of the bottom of the head tube.
That went better than I expected. I'll give AI 10 out of 10 for this one. It's time for the last major component, the bottom bracket. With the various standards, I wonder if it will tell me how to remove mine. I may include some photos to see if that helps. Here's my prompt. Can you please give me step-by-step instructions on how to remove my bottom bracket from the frame? For reference, I've attached 2 photos.
Identify bottom bracket type. Examine the ends of the bottom bracket shell inside the frame. You will see either splines or notches. This is for cartridge type bottom brackets, which are common. A lock ring and adjustable cob. This is for older style bottom brackets. Lock ring and adjustable cob. Use a lock ring tool to loosen the lock ring in a counterclockwise direction. Once the lock ring is removed, use a pin spanner or adjustable wrench to remove the adjustable cob. Remove the drive side, right side. Important. The drive side has a reverse thread. This means you turn the wrench clockwise to tighten and counterclockwise to loosen. Lock ring and adjustable cob. You would have removed these in the previous step.
For the drive side, I'm not sure if I missed a step or what. It thinks we already took care of that. It did realize that the drive side was reverse threaded. So I'll give AI a 6 out of 10 for this. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this type of video. If you like this video, show that thumbs up button some love and subscribe for more bicycle restoration content.